Hello, good friends. Mr. E here, and today I want to talk about something that is perhaps a bit on the nerdy side, maybe overly analytical, but definitely I think it's fun to think about, and that is team comps. Now, in Darktide, having an actual composition of your team is a rare treat, but hey, maybe occasionally you're playing on Havoc or something, and you happen to realize you have 3 of the 4 parts, and you can put something together, and if you can get everybody to play towards certain roles, you can really destroy games. And I should mention that if you are looking for a community, or you're looking for more friends to play Darktide with, and maybe even want to support me, well then becoming a channel member is the perfect way to do all that. You'll get access to the Discord, which of course has me in it, but also hundreds of people who are incredibly welcoming and accepting and knowledgeable and will play games with you, and they're always in there doing pickup games and looking for more people to try out meme builds or do strategies like this. So I love my community. I cannot shout them out enough. They are awesome, and I hope to see you there as well. Thanks for considering it. And I wanted to go through, perhaps do a couple of videos to highlight different synergies between different characters so you can understand what some really powerful compositions are in order to beat Havoc or beat any difficulty, really. Imagine, yeah, you could slam Heresy with this composition if you really wanted to. The hardest thing here is going to be, having 4 players that can actually cohere, and maybe some of them that can flex between characters and switch to something else that they have equal skill and gear and stuff in. But, this is more of a thought exercise than anything. So what is this this powerful team composition I'm talking about, and how do we choose? There's 7 characters in the game now. How do we choose only 4 that would make up what I think might be among the winningest Havoc compositions? And the first thing I have to start with, that I have to say every team should have in Havoc difficulty if you're looking to just guarantee a win, is an ogryn. Ogryn is the big man. He is the centerpiece of the team, and he is going to be the siege breaker. He is going to be the first in and the hold the line for everybody else to do their job. So he is the rallying point for the entire team, and more importantly, because he is going to be using taunt, he's going to be the rallying point for all the enemies. So he's going to be an absolute fixture in this fight because his frontlining power is simply unparalleled. There is, of course, Arbites, who has his own utilities, but the ogryn can gather everything from a very wide area, get it concentrated, and get it controlled, and make certain that it isn't attacking your team, which buys you a ton of time and makes an incredible amount of space. So I want to highlight the builds that I'll be talking about today. The first one here with the ogryn is I want to talk about the build I just put up the other day, my pick for meta ogryn. So this sort of ogryn build would be perfect for this because we are using taunt, because we are a primary melee character, and we are just going to be beating stuff to death. We're going to be hanging out near our allies. We're going to be using talents like get stuck in here and no hurting friends, which will get massive benefits when we are near our allies, since we're going to get buffs out of those. We'll play with stay close here because toughness regen overall, this is 20% multiplier to all toughness regained by your entire team, which is a very valuable asset for the entire team to share. And we can play with linchpin here because guess what? We're also gonna have this qatari on this team. But if you didn't see this build, I'll link it in the comments. Go check it out. This build is so funny. It's so incredibly powerful. I think this is probably just the best way to play ogryn right now to have a massive impact. You can easily carry games with a build like this. And yeah, so we're gonna really rely on having control over the enemies. We're gonna be pummeling them down with our power maul. We're going to be dropping rumbler shots if things get extra hectic, but our main goal is just to keep everything stunned and stalled so that it actually can't do anything. It's either going to be dying directly to us, or it's going to be stunned and concussed such that other players can clean it up. And one really important factor, one really important thing the ogryn can do is, because he has so much stagger power, because he is the absolute king of just like concussing enemies, we have Skull Crusher. And this is a really important part of any team. Skull Crusher is a massive damage increase bonus for everything, and that is up to 80% additional damage taken by these targets, and that means whatever the ogryn's smacking on, all those targets are going to take 80% additional damage, and we're going to have plenty of damage to go around for the other characters. Now, the ogryn needs a little bit of support, right? What is the ogryn not so good at? Well, that's usually getting rid of range targets, especially with a configuration like this. Range is going to be kind of freaking annoying for him. He's going to get plinked down by tons of small gunners. He might get preyed on by specialists like trappers or mutants, etc., etc. So what would be a great pair to go with the ogryn? How can we complement the ogryn's strengths? Well, there is one character, a new character to the game, who does this better than just anybody else, and that is the qatari. The qatari is like perfectly designed to work alongside the ogryn. And that is because this qatari is an incredibly strong ranged character. We're going to be playing him in range configuration here. The build in particular, if you're interested, is the build I put up quite recently on the channel. That is, I don't know, I called it arc rifle stupid here, but yeah, my choice for the most powerful qatari build may be a meta qatari build with the arc rifle. We are a ranged terror, basically. We are going to be annihilating anything with it that has a pulse, or I don't even know if these Nurgle enemies have pulses, but yeah, our range power here is disgusting. We are an expert at priority target removal though. So whenever you're playing this qatari setup here, you will absolutely top the charts in specialist and elite removal, because we can kill them in like 1 or 2 shots, and or we can have our new spheric command from our skull killing another specialist at the same time we're killing one in front of us, which means we are doing double duty here. We are printing an absolute metric fuck ton of kills. But that is not all this qatari can provide. This qatari has a lot of utility here with a lot of synergy, even with a blessing called No Respite. This gives 20% damage on hit to staggered enemies, stacking up to 7 times based on the stagger state. And remember who on our team has a lot of fucking stagger? That's the ogryn. So when he wallops a target with the power maul, or when he taunts, or when he shoves these enemies down to the ground, they are suddenly going to take a fuck ton of damage from this arc rifle, up to 240% of the normal damage, and that's going to fry them instantly. At the same time, we are no chump in terms of debuffing enemies too, because we have System Shock here. System Shock can give the other debuff, so not only are these enemies going to be taking up to 80% additional damage from the Skull Crusher on the ogryn, but if we have priority targets, we can hit them with our arc rifle. Every time we tap them, we're adding 10% brittleness up to a cap of 40. So now we have bosses that are going to be taking an extra 80% and then 40% reduction in their defenses, which is really, really devastating. We're going to be stacking an incredible amount of damage. And the reason that this class works so well with the ogryn especially is because of Resurgence here. Resurgence is going to be a great team-wide utility. It gives everybody coherency regen, and we are assuming, you know, this might be like living in sort of fantasy land, but we are assuming a coherent team who's going to be playing close to each other. And that means that, yes, this coherency regen is going to be very valuable for the ogryn. It's valuable for the qatari too, but the ogryn is going to get a ton of benefit because he gets that extra regen from linchpin and stacking those curios. And you can go watch my ogryn video if you want to see what I mean by that. In addition, though, we have our voltaic emitter. This is our ability here, and this is a perfect counter to a bunch of the bullshit that the ogryn has to deal with, right? Ranged enemies, right? Not only are we the gunner, we are the long distance precision target removal sort of character, but also we have this button we can press that will shut down every gunner that is within line of sight of us, more or less. And we can just EMP an entire area, bunch of Reapers, whatever, turn them on for 12 seconds, lets us do a ton of work. And at the same time, we're putting out these arcs that are stunning enemies, and that means now when the ogryn's going around and bashing stuff, it's going to be adding those Skull Crusher stacks. You're going to take a fuck ton of damage. And we have Medicae Servo Skull, of course, on this build, because this build is, we're being played around a team. This is an incredibly strong node, and this allows us to cast this out. Say the ogryn gets, stuck somewhere. He's got everything taunted, he gets stuck, he gets pummeled down to the ground. Well, the taunt lasts while he's actually down on the ground, right? So everything will keep kicking the shit out of him, but that's perfect for our purposes. We can kill a ton of stuff while it's still trying to murder him, and then at the last second, help him back to his feet free with the Medicae Servo Skull. You have a new Spirit Command down here. It's going to be annihilating tons and tons of targets, and then we, of course, have lots of additional damage from killing elites. We can be mostly self-sufficient in terms of ammo. And remember, the ogryn is not very ammo hungry in the way we have him built. We're just going to be using grenades to disrupt enemies, but we're not like spamming them around. We're going to let our qatari hog most of the ammo here, so he can go absolutely gangbusters with his arc rifle. And finally, to augment the whole team, we have Power Overload, which can provide damage and toughness damage reduction to everybody on the team, about you know, about 50% of the time. It's about 40% uptime there. We can also debuff the enemies that we are near, making them take an extra 15% damage whenever they get hit by critical power overload. And yeah, this is a really, really strong build in general, but it also works incredibly well when you're put with a team that has a solid front line that the ogryn's going to provide. And now let's talk about some other damage. So we have a precision target removal who's going to be able to cook a ton of these elites and specials and just remove them because the arc rifle is super, super good at that. It's also an incredibly strong boss damage killing, a boss damage dealing build that will hurt these bosses pretty damn badly, especially if you can get some of these negative stats stacked up, like the Skull Crusher, like the Brittlness from System Shock here. But what do we want to deal just massive, massive amounts of damage to everything else? And of course, no most powerful team composition is going to be complete without the humble Flamestaff Psyker. I hate doing it, but I mean, it just is undeniable in its power. This character will add so much auxiliary damage to everything else that is kind of hard to not include in a list like this. Although I'll do another list that doesn't include the Psyker just for the flavor. Now, what can the Psyker contribute to the team? It's mostly a fuck ton of damage because the Inferno Force Staff here can apply a lot of debuffs. It can apply all of this lovely, lovely Soul Blaze, which is going to be cooking all those small little annoying enemies, right? We don't have to have precision aim like this Qatari does, and we can get rid of any number of enemies, as long as they're kind of roughly gathered together. Fortunately, remember, we have that guy in our team who can roughly gather all these enemies together, and so we're going to be kind of waving the flame staff over the general area where the ogryn has gathered all these enemies up. And the real bonus here is that, of course, the flame staff already does a ton of damage, but then it's going to get boosted further because we have this Qatari, we have the ogryn, both of whom can really, really boost the damage that targets take. So any armored targets, normally they're more or less immune to Inferno Force Staff's Soul Blaze effect. However, if they're embrittled by, say, hypothetically, System Shock's electrocution effect, they are then going to take a ton of damage and they will actually die to this Soul Blaze. And this is also going to get rid of all those small horde enemies, so the ogryn's not getting gummed up on them. Qatari's not the best at horde clear, so that'll really help thin this out. Now, we can do all this damage, but it doesn't mean that we're a damage-only character. We're going to provide, and I'll hover over Kyrios in case you're interested down here, but we're going to provide some lovely utility to our team as well with this down here. We're going to be going for the Bubble Psyker, and of course Bubble, you know, it's just such a strong ability. Adding 10% toughness per second to everybody inside the Telekine Shield. The Telekine Shield, when it's put up, is a guaranteed 5-second duration. Past that, it does have a health pool. It'll last up to 25 seconds. With our cooldown, it can push this very, very competitively down into, I think it's like a 20-ish second cooldown, so we can have more or less permanent bubble uptime if you're doing a pretty good job at getting lots of kills and stuff. And what this bubble can do for us is it just cuts out a ton of negative damage, you know, enemy bullshit, right? Not only does the bubble protect against gunner fire, especially small scattered gunner fire this thing really destroys, but it is super, super effective against the presence of Beast of Nurgle. It devastates the ranged twin who has the plasma gun because, you know, neither his gas bombs can penetrate it, nor can he shoot while he's inside of it. And yeah, the bubble is just such a good utility. The fact that we can do this and have some team-topping damage with the Flame Staff is amazing. And at the same time, we're also going to be augmenting our team with Seer's Presence here, a 10% cooldown reduction, which is a very, very valuable aura. Almost, you know, probably on the similar level of value as these Qatari's Coherency aura. And we can do head pops, so that'll add an eliminating some elites there. It's just such free damage that we can do here. And you could go for extra radius of your Coherency aura, so you can stay in Coherency more, or you could go for Quell Speed. It's up to you. But yeah, we're going to benefit very much thanks to Psykinetics aura here from being close to our team. And we're just going to be able to do so much damage while also defending and keeping a strong emplacement with Telekine Shield. Telekine Shield really allows you to make pushes into places you wouldn't otherwise be able to, thanks to its projectile blocking effect. So this is sort of our character who can establish a bastion and then really just deal the damage on the back of the other characters. So yeah, there's a ton of damage and a little bit of a bubble there, and not all that interesting, but neither is our last character. However, they have to be in the composition. So far, what have we got? We got the Flame Staff Psyker with the bubble. This character can lock down one area, they can secure a position for their team, they can erase hordes, they can do lots of lingering damage on a widespread number of enemies, so big sizes of numbers don't really bother us. What do we got with this qatari? Well, this qatari can debuff individual targets and CC in some limited capacity other targets. They can also be a primary specialist and elite picker offer. They can destroy those targets post-haste instantly with both their own arc rifle and new spheric. What has the ogryn got? He has total battlefield dominance. He's got control where he can get every enemy around him grouped up, and he can pummel them and stagger them and deal damage to them. What we're lacking right now is we're lacking boss damage, because we don't really have any way of really there's no weapon on any of these classes that's really all that crazy at killing bosses. But one thing we can do is if we can make bosses get staggered, we can get an incredible amount of damage on them, thanks to the ogryn Skull Crusher. Now, bosses are really hard to stagger, right? And a lot of the threat that we might have here is getting overrun by these bosses, since we can't get rid of them effectively. So say the game decides to spawn 2 monsters and the twins at the same time, we might need something to either get them the fuck off of us and reset to a better position, or push them away and stagger them so we can do incredible amounts of damage. And it would be nice if it buffed our team in some other way at the same time. And that is where, of course, the ever-present Chorus Zealot is going to come in here. So the Chorus Zealot, I mean, it's a very boring way to play Zealot for sure, but you can't argue with its efficacy. And that is simply because we have to equip our correct flamer here. That's simply because the Chorus is such a powerful ability. This is my favorite Chorus Zealot setup here with a talent tree, or with a set of gears kind of look at something like this, and lacerate to guarantee those crits. And here is our talent tree over here. And what this is going to do for us is this is going to be our character, and I was running knives, by the way, not immolations, that was for a video. This is going to be our character that can just absolutely cuck any attempt at like surging us. So something that might overwhelm us is a lot of bosses, right? A lot of bosses followed by other characters, and they could push us back into a corner. Well, this is our nope, cancel that Uno Reverso card, where we say no to any coming onslaught. We can get a full state reset to everything in the game. We can pause any incoming bosses. We can turn the tables on them and burn them down. And that's all off the back of Chorus generally, because Chorus is not only going to buff our team, get them a ton of their toughness back, give them gold toughness, which is a crazy broken buff, but also it staggers all enemies, including monstrosities and captains, which means now that they're staggered, they are going to be vulnerable to the Skull Crusher effect. Then they're going to be vulnerable because of brittleness applied to them, and now all damage going into them is massively augmented. And that means Ecclesiarch's Call here, the 30% additional damage that we and all allies in Coherency are going to do for the next 10 seconds, starting at 5 pulses and being refreshed up to 7 pulses. So this is actually going to last about almost 12 full seconds for everybody in the team. This is a ton of damage when it's augmented by that Skull Crusher. And down here, one thing that both the qatari and the psyker really love is crit. And this class can give the whole team 10% additional crit, which is a really big number in the grand scheme of things. And if they are the character who applies a bleed, so if they run up to a boss and apply a bleed, that target will take 15% extra damage for 5 seconds. So that means that permanently they're going to be bleeding, basically, because we're always applying bleeds, and the ogre can keep the bleeds up for us. This is also our sort of clutch character. Revives that aren't handled by the qatari and their skull can be very easily rescued with the help of the Chorus Zealot here. He can simply run in there, and thanks to Providence and revive speed on all 3 of his curios, he can pick up allies in 39% of the normal revive revive time, which means that a normal revive is taking just over a second, and picking up an ally out of a trap or something is taking just over a third of a second, so very, very fast. He also gets really cool extra damage reductions like shielding attempt here, which will trigger when enemies are dealing health damage to our allies. So say the ogryn gets his toughness blown off, well, all of a sudden this jumps to that ogryn, and he is now getting 60% flat damage reduction for 4 seconds. That can enable him to tank an incredible amount of damage and get his toughness back at the same time. And we're pretty dang self-sufficient in general. Note that, yeah, we don't really have any uses for blitzes on the team. The ogryn could take a frag bomb if he really wanted to instead of rock, because there's not really any blitz users. We could take an immolation grenade if we truly want to do, or a stun storm, I guess. I would suppose the best user for this would maybe be our Medicae skull, but also there's really no harm in not using the blitzes in this configuration, because I think we've probably got enough damage and enough utility in general to take care of this stuff. But yeah, the zealot is an excellent pick here to round this out, because we have an ability that is incredibly strong. It's probably overpowered. It can just completely shut down enemy confrontations and turn them back into being advantage for the home team, and it is going to be dictated in how useful it is by your cooldown. And remember that the psyker is providing us 10% cooldown reduction, which is a pretty big deal, right? That's going to cut 6 seconds off this bad boy, plus our cooldown reduction, which is going to cut another, what is it? Oh, like 7 seconds or so off. So we're going to be starting with a pretty dang low cooldown here and only working back from there. And so yeah, here's our last piece of the puzzle. And so taken as a whole, what can this team do? It can really just kind of plow ahead into anything, right? The ogryn opens the charge, and he can get out there and he can corral all the enemies. If there's a lot of gunners in a particular area and the ogryn doesn't want to lead the charge, you can either put the bubble in front of them and let the ogryn get close enough to taunt and disable all of them, or you can have the zealot get out there because his chorus ability can suppress in an ever-widening radius, which can stop all those gunners from shooting and allow you to get it close in, at the same time as the ogryn is controlling all these melee enemies and beating them and bludgeoning them. We have this qatari who's set back a little bit of a distance, whose priority goal is to remove all these specialists and elites that are going to be constantly pestering you and constantly annoying you with new spheric, with arc rifle, debuffing any targets with that brittleness debuff. Then when really anything is going on, the psyker is just going to be firing off flame staff full time to add in a ton of extra damage and just round off tons and tons of kills, right? It's way better for your time if a target who is on maybe 25% HP is killed by Soul Blaze rather than you having to swing at them an extra time if you're the ogryn. And so altogether, this is an incredibly defensively stacked but also offensively stacked team that has a bunch of synergies that all really play off each other. And I think it'd be very fun to experiment with something like this. So I might just do that. I might get a team together and see what we can ruckus we can cook up with a team looks like this. And as I said before, I'll do another team composition video where I don't put the flame staff psyker in there, because I can understand that could be kind of annoying to people, and I'll try to include some of the other classes as well, so you can figure out like a composition you might build if you're, say, an RBDs or a veteran, right? There are definitely things we can do there. I just think that this is probably like a super GG easy way of winning most games right now, is with a composition like this. Anyway, thanks for indulging me on this funny little nerdy, I don't know, whatever this is, just theory crafting. Hope you enjoyed. See you next time. Mystery out. Bye bye.